So let's just dive right into that content. So Dreambox Learning Math, for those of you who have never been introduced to us before, we are a digital-based math program for your students. We're going to provide students with lessons that they need when they need them. The curriculum is going to be rigorous and challenge students to think critically. And then finally, Dreambox Learning is going to be motivating. We really want your students to have fun while they're learning. Now, for you all as educators, we're going to provide data that's going to track students' growth and proficiency. We're going to provide a customizable environment so that you all can assign focus lessons based upon student need. And then we're going to provide you also with insights as to what your students are learning. Now we're going to talk a little more in depth about what Dreambox Learning is from the perspective of our three pillars, adaptive, rigorous, and motivating. Now these actually have become education buzzwords, so I want to spend a little bit of time talking about what we mean by these three pillars. So we'll first start with adaptive. So when we think about being adaptive, we're really thinking about what you all as educators do every day in your classrooms. So if you're sitting at your math table with these four students in front of you and you ask them, what is 29 plus 72? And you get four different incorrect answers. The very first thing you're going to do is try to figure out how those students arrived at those four different answers. And actually, Dreambox Learning is going to do the same thing. So we are going to have students engage with digital manipulatives to construct their answers. And as they're constructing those answers, Dreambox Learning is going to continuously analyze the student thinking during this learning process. We're going to try to understand what strategies they're using, where their gaps are, and also when they're ready for increased challenges. And when we get this deep understanding of each and every one of our students, then we're going to identify a trajectory, pace, and path that's really going to help each one of these students build their competency and confidence in mathematics. So when I look at my gentleman who is got the answer 91, it's our gentleman in the purple shirt, by the way, I realized that maybe he didn't regroup properly. So we'll take him back to a lesson on regrouping. And my young lady who is in the pink shirt, who answered 2,992 or 72, she actually is really confused about what addition means. And so we may take her back to a lesson that really helps her with that. And by the way, here are the different issues that we saw each one of these students having as they're working through this particular problem. Now, when your students begin in Dreambox, they're going to start at their assigned grade level. However, if you have students who are significantly above or below grade level, or who are struggling learners in mathematics, then you can adjust that starting point if necessary. And Dreambox is really going to take it from there. So we'll introduce them to a lesson group and a lesson within that lesson group, and then we'll start analyzing the students' responses within a lesson. As they complete a lesson successfully, then we'll take them through to more complicated or more advanced content, or we might even open up new lesson groups in related content as well. And we'll keep pushing the student forward as we see that they are ready for new content and new concepts. Now, if I have a student who struggles through a lesson, they have a series of incorrect responses, their response time is really lagging, and they're having a hard time picking an efficient strategy to help them solve the problem, then actually I'll take them back to a foundational lesson, and Dreambox is going to give them some remediation to help fill in any gaps. And Dreambox is going to do that very naturally, by the way. There's no need for any sort of teacher intervention in order to make that happen. That's going to just happen naturally through our adaptive engine. Now the next pillar is our rigorous lessons. So when we talk about rigor in Dreambox, we're really thinking about starting students with basic concrete objectives and then moving them to abstract concepts that are really going to help facilitate conceptual understanding, fluency, and that all-important critical thinking. So I'm going to give you an example of what this would look like at the kindergarten through second grade example. So the tools that students use are going to help build a deep conceptual understanding. So one of those tools that we have students work with in the lower grades is this 10 frame. So in this lesson, students are learning to make 10 on the 10 frame by counting on and using multiple combinations. When they really show that they can do this, demonstrating just a basic conceptual understanding, then we're going to take them on to find the add-ons that make 10 that will really help them build their fluency. And also note that we've taken away that scaffold of the 10 frame to help them understand how to find those add-on pairs. And then once students have demonstrated fluency and have a deep conceptual understanding, Dreambox is actually going to move them to another manipulative. So students have to generalize what they've learned and use critical thinking skills to do so. So now they're going to construct numbers 11 through 20. And here students are going to need to make 17 in the least number of moves or clicks possible. And that's just one example of how we have the students move from very concrete to more abstract when they're working in Dreambox. Now our last pillar is motivating. So when we think about motivating students, we have to keep in mind the age group for those students. Now we do span ages or grades K through 8 as well as algebra. So we do have different learning environments for different groups of students. We have one for K2, one for 3-5, and one for 6th through 8th grade.